Coffee is for leaders.
And so we try to find the right people who are going to, the litmus test for me, Clint, is can you benefit from and contribute to the community? And candidly, no jerks. It's as simple as that. But beyond that, we have people from 27 to 87 years of age, virtually every industry. I think you can find 5 people who are experts in just about anything at Tiger 21.
Man, I'm super impressed with what you've built here. It's incredible, man. So let's just get right into it, if that's okay. You're the president and CEO of Tiger 21. Tell us what Tiger 21 is and how you became a CEO and leader.
All right, those will get us started. So you mentioned that I built Tiger 21. I didn't really build it. I'm the steward of it. It was founded as of October 7th, Clint. It'll be 26 years ago by a gentleman by the name of Michael Sonnenfeld, who is still the chairman of our board, somebody I still engage with on a regular basis. Maybe I'm going a little bit too far, but I think there's a little bit of a yin and yang for he and I in this thing, which we may get a chance to touch on during the course of our time together. But Michael founded Tiger 21 now 26 years ago with the idea that he had a wealth creation event at a relatively early point in his life. And what he found, Clint, was that everybody wanted to tell him what he should do with his money, how he should live his life. And he realized, sure, that's all great counsel, but they have their own agenda and they're trying to apply it to anybody who's sort of got a lot of money, who's created wealth. And he said, maybe what's a better alternative is to bring together a group of people who have found themselves in this rather unique set of life experiences or this life situation. And we share our experiences with one another. We are each other's advisors. And recognizing you bring together people with different backgrounds, different points in their lives, different experiences, different sort of professional journeys. And it can be incredibly valuable and powerful in terms of being able to address a lot of the things that you need to address when you've had a wealth creation event. Further, you really start to develop some powerful relationships. You share a lot with people. And when you do that, it's human nature. There's a bond that occurs and those bonds can become really, really powerful. So we'll talk, I suspect, a fair bit more about this. I don't want to go too far into it.
No, this is great.
I joined Tiger 21 6 years ago. In my current role, what I'd love to tell you, I was intimately aware of what Tiger 21 was. I wasn't, but I quickly became enamored with it. I have been pretty mission oriented in the things that I've had the good fortune to do in my professional career. And if I'm honest, I didn't really see the mission in Tiger 21 when I was first introduced to it. I thought, where's the mission in helping rich people get richer? And I thought, this is probably not the right thing for me. But I was quickly convinced to turn over a few more cards and came to realize that the mission is, in fact, incredibly powerful. I suspect we'll talk more about the people who are members at Tiger 21, their attributes, et cetera. But what you find, Clint, is that they are people, they've had success, and that success has created wealth in their life. But they're people who are just never going to be done learning, never be done having a positive impact, never be done improving themselves and their surroundings. And so, being able to sort of bring those people together and allow them to create the circumstances to have to amplify their impact is an incredibly powerful mission. And I came to realize that, thankfully, moved into the role and have thoroughly enjoyed it over the last 6+ years now.
What were you doing prior to Tiger 21?
So, I, by the way, spent the first 10 years of my career doing what at the time were called leverage buyouts. I'm probably dating myself a bit there. I think you're shaking your head. You know what they are. It's sort of the precursor to private equity, what we now know as private equity. Very interesting, enjoyed it, learned a tremendous amount, and decided I really wanted to pivot and move into a situation where I would have a greater responsibility and an ongoing responsibility to the companies that I was involved with, not transactional in nature. And so ultimately pursued a path to be able to sort of run companies. And in the late 90s, got my first opportunity. And I'd love to tell you, Clint, that I sought this out. I didn't. I wasn't that smart or didn't have that level of foresight. But it ended up being an education company. It helped people who were pursuing careers that required state-based certifications to be able to help prepare them for that. And I realized how powerful it was that, if you're going to do all the work that's required to be able to help people, to be able to create value in an entity, to have the only way you're going to be able to create that value be helping people to improve their lives, help them to achieve their life objectives. It came upon me rather quickly, and I realized this is what I want to do with the rest of my professional career. And it's what I've been doing for the last 25 plus years, is running education and human development businesses. Immediately prior to Tiger 21, I was responsible for everything outside of the Americas for a company called Laureate Education, which is a global network of universities. And I was responsible for 34 universities from Portugal to New Zealand. And so that was the last thing I did right before Tiger 21. Before that, I had run a couple of other private equity-backed education companies. Thankfully, they did pretty well. And a lot of it was internationally oriented, globally oriented, I should say. So that's how I got here.
Tell me what the typical profile, and there may be no typical profile, but what the typical profile of a member of Tiger 21?
Two things I'll sort of start with, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail, perhaps. One is, I think it was shortly after I came to Tiger 21, I said to somebody, and they nodded their head, if you've met one Tiger 21 member, you've met one Tiger 21 member. And that really does hold true. Frankly, it's perhaps a blinding glimpse of the obvious, but there are patterns that emerge. One of the things that perhaps has been most compelling to me, and I think is sort of part of the secret sauce of Tiger 21, Clint, is that these members have an amazing combination of humility and achievement. Things that you find oftentimes in individuals, you'll find, somebody that is fascinating to sit down and talk to, but, all they want to do is tell you how smart they are. And really, you really don't want to spend your time, having an engagement with them. Or you'll find people that are wonderfully engaging, but they just don't have anything really interesting to share or don't really care to hear what you've got to say. Tiger members are people that you both want to sit down and engage with because they're wonderful people, but they also have a lot to share. And so I think that is one of the overriding attributes or set of attributes for Tiger 21 members. Beyond that, again, I think, one of the things that we do, and it's something that's developed over time, there's both art and science involved with it, is be able to sort of find people who are going to fit in this community. Just because you've had success and wealth that has come from that success doesn't mean that this is necessarily going to be a good fit for you. And so we try to find the right people who are going to, the litmus test for me, Clint, is can you benefit from and contribute to the community? And candidly, no jerks. It's as simple as that. But beyond that, we have people from 27 to 87 years of age, virtually every industry. I think you can find 5 people who are experts in just about anything at Tiger 21. We're now global. So we've got 8%, 9% of our members are outside of North America. And so, we're just continuing to increase the sort of diversity, if you will. And so you asked me tell me about the patterns. I'm actually sort of orienting to the diversity. And I think that really is a bit of the hallmark of what we try to do, both at the local level and the individual groups that are the core of Tiger 21 and at the more macro or global level as well.
This may be a naive question, and I should probably know this before we hop on, but why is it called Tiger 21?
Well, this is something we're evaluating right now because I think it goes back to its origins when the acronym, which I'll share with you in just a moment, was very applicable. And Tiger 21 really did start off more investment oriented. And so the acronym, that going back to its founding, is the investment group for enhanced results in the 21st century, Tiger 21. The investment group was much more applicable, I think, 20 years ago. What we've come to realize is that, we are experts in understanding every aspect of a fundamental transition point in somebody's life when they have had that wealth creation event, or it's accumulated over the course of time to the point that it's sort of become something that they can't get away from. They can no longer ignore it. And so it's the whole person. Every aspect of somebody's life needs to be attended to, not just the investment side. And so it's a piece that we're looking at right now is the acronym still hold, but that's the origin story.
It certainly has a great brand behind it, right? And so that's kind of like particularly the Tiger part, right? Like that's a big, everybody kind of knows what that is. Everybody's heard of Tiger 21 for the most part. What does it take to become a member, I guess, would be a question that if I was watching this or listening to this, I might be wondering.
The thing that people most often orient toward, Clint, is the sort of capital requirement. And there is a capital requirement, and you can see it on our website. It's sort of significant, if you will. But we actually orient around 5 C's of membership. And so, capital being one of those, but character. Are you a good person? Are you a person that people want to sit down around the table with? Conditions. We actually say, there's no solicitation. We ask you to attend a certain number of meetings every year, because you need to be there for your other group members and the rest of the network, not just for yourself. So are you willing to abide by those conditions? Capacity. If you don't have the time for this, let's be honest with ourselves. Don't do it. Don't make the investment now. And it's not just because you're not going to optimize the return, but the other 12 to 14 people sitting around the table are going to have an empty chair that they're going to be missing and that they would benefit from if it was filled with somebody who they could learn from and contribute to. And then contribution. Is there something unique that you can bring to the group? And in particular at the group level, this is important, Clint, because, we'll talk perhaps about sort of the concept of your board of advisors or your board of directors. And, you want as much diversity you want to be able to look at your situation through as many different lenses as possible. And so, what unique thing can I bring to the group? It could, we don't want to have 12 real estate people sitting around a table, 12 private equity people sitting around a table. You want one of 14 different things. And so that's the key element on the contribution side. And so, those 5 C's are really the elements that we evaluate candidates against. And it's a pretty rigorous process. And as I said, not everybody is going to be appropriate as a fit for Tiger 21. And so, it's our job to make sure we protect the integrity and quality of this community, because that's everything.
What was a pivotal moment in your life that you think has defined you as a leader, or even like who you are as a person?
Well, I'll share one perhaps as a person and one perhaps as a leader, if you don't mind me taking a bit of liberty with your question, Clint. One as a person is, I go back to, I was going to college, and my mother was going to college at the same time. My parents had been divorced when I was pretty young, and my mother, amazing woman, raised us 3 kids and worked a couple of jobs and then started going to university. And she would have been the first person in our family to go to university. And so, when asked if I'm the first person in our family to go to university, I say, well, it's sort of between my mother and myself in that regard. And the lesson in that is that you never should be done growing or improving yourself. My mother never was done improving herself. She went on to sort of start a company with 4 other colleagues that ended up being reasonably successful, and she achieved financial stability in her life, candidly later in life. But, it was something that for me was incredibly profound. And I hope if I were just looking at, a third party who was doing what my mother did, that I would have had the same appreciation for it. The fact that it was my mother, I couldn't get away from. And so it just really hit very close to home. And I hope there is there's an inspiration or a motivation there that will always be there from seeing my mother do everything that she has done and achieved in her life. On the professional side, there was an experience that I had. My mentor was a gentleman by the name of Norm Blake. He was running the leverage buyout company that I was originally a part of. He left to go run a troubled insurance company, and he asked me to go with him, and I did join him. That was where he actually said to me, with all due respect to your listeners, Clint, who may be on the transactional side, he said, do you want to do deals for a living or do you want to get a real job? And so I'm I'm not sure what to make of that. I enjoy doing deals, but the sort of CEO piece has been very gratifying as well. But so I joined him in this insurance company, and there was an opportunity, in fact, a need for us to significantly restructure the entire operational part of $1 billion part of the operation. It was the personal lines and small business part of this insurance company. And Norm said to me, Tim, I think of you like a son, and I'll give you this opportunity, but if you don't succeed, I'm going to have to fire you. And so I was sort of I think I was probably in my early 30s at the time. I just started, I think we had our second child. And you feel as though you're playing without a net to a certain extent. You're given this great opportunity, but what happens if it doesn't work? And I bet on myself. It did work. By the way, not surprisingly, I made tons of mistakes, thankfully none catastrophic, learned a tremendous amount. And I think all of the hard and soft lessons from that experience, Clint, helped me to really position to be the leader that I am, to sort of, understand kind of how to build and work with a team, how to deal with incredibly tight timeframes. I had to work through every discipline in the organization. The change management was incredibly intense, but it was invaluable in terms of creating a foundation for my leadership and professional career.
What core values kind of guide your decision-making process, if I might ask? It sounds like you've developed, certain values over the years.
Well, I think hopefully we all do. And sometimes they're hard to characterize. And let's move off the table the things that, hopefully are kind of tickets to play the game in terms of, integrity, honesty, transparency. I mean, you can't, I think you have to operate with those. So let's assume that those are core values. Beyond that, the things that are probably core to me, not just professionally, but as a person, I'd say service is very high on the list. And finding honor in service. I'll often ask people, how do you feel when, a member asks you to do something? Is that something that sort of gnaws at you? Or do you say, I'm pleased that I'm able to help somebody. And, maybe it goes back again to my experience as a young person, but finding honor and service is something that I've always appreciated. I would hope the folks on our team would say, and other teams that I've worked with over the course of my career would say, I've never said it's not my job. If the bathroom needs to be cleaned, I'll go clean the bathroom. And so I think finding honor and service is something that's critically important. I think passion is another one, Clint. It's interesting. I listened to some things that you've said publicly as well, and I know you've talked a lot about passion. And I think, especially, anything in life, we get one, as best we know, we get one turn here, and so give it all. Don't leave anything, left undone. And so, especially when it comes to our professional lives, and I don't begrudge anybody who says, I want to work to live. Good for them, but we end up spending so much of the time that we have on the professional part of our lives. Why not do something that's special? Why not be able to really put your thumbprint on something? So be passionate about whatever it is you're doing. And then, probably a couple other that I'll just throw out are accountability and kindness. I think accountability is, don't back away from things. Take responsibility for it. Be the person who steps up and takes responsibility. And especially when you're in a leadership position, there may be no more important model behavior than that, which is, if it goes wrong, it's on me. And so I'm accountable. So that's one. And then kindness, it's a word that sort of can be really tricky at times, Clint, but love is, really a wonderful thing. And there's this unusual magnetism at Tiger 21 because of the bonds that are created because of all that we share with one another, and not just with the members, the people who run our groups, our chairs. I just came from our North American chair retreat, and not just the energy that you see in that room and feel in that room, there's love. And people talk about love. And where's love in the workplace? And so kindness and love and those sorts of things, the how is so important in that regard. So those would be the items that I would highlight, probably are, central to me, hopefully both professionally and personally.
What type of legacy would you like to leave behind?
Well, gosh, I'm 62. I better have thought about it. Yes. And, it's probably like all of us. It's a work in process. There's a lot of things professionally, and, I'm happy to talk about those. But there's nothing more important. We're blessed with 2 children, and there's nothing more important than our children. When I'm gone and when my wife's gone, our children are what's going to define us, maybe memories that people have of us otherwise. And by the way, that's a lot of what you hear from our members. It's sort of not, hey, I built this amazing company that I sold for $200 million, and I created all these jobs. And by the way, then I was able to have a philanthropic impact because I used some of my capital to sort of have a positive impact in other ways. It's how do I make sure that my children have the same advantages that I did, that they can live a life of purpose, that they're not living in the shadow of their parents and their parents' accomplishments, that they're good people who are going to be contributing to society, to the world, to their families, hopefully the same way we have. And so, that is probably the most significant topic that comes up in our meetings, generally speaking. And certainly it's the cornerstone of my legacy. We do things like, there are exercises that our members can do, and then groups sort of opt into these. But, one is write your obituary, talk about powerful, and then sort of share that with the group. You see a lot of instances where there's a lot of adults who are not without dry eyes in the house on that one. And then what's your 100-year plan? What are the things, what's the impact, and what are the values that are going to outlive us? And so, those are things that we really try to sort of suggest, help our members see and define for themselves. So they're as intentional as they can be. And I think I'm probably no different in that regard, Clint, but it starts with my children and my family, my extended family as well. Am I doing all the right things to be the best person for them as I can be?
What does a typical day look like for you?
I end up spending about, on average, I think a quarter of each day talking to members. I started something probably now about 4 years ago, Clint, where I offer every new member at Tiger 21, every first-year member at Tiger 21, an opportunity to have a call. And about 80% of the members take me up on it. And so you can probably back into the numbers that suggest that that's a lot of calls, but it is incredibly impactful. First of all, I have the benefit of hearing these amazing stories, and they are amazing, and no two are alike. But also I hear, what are they looking for from Tiger 21? How can we be better? 95% of the things on a regular basis that we are investing in to enhance the member experience come from themes that emerge in the calls that I have and other members of the team have, engaging with the people who run our groups, the chairs, as well as with members. So probably a quarter of any day. And again, it's a little bit lumpier than that, but a quarter of any day is dedicated to talking to members. A fair bit of it is sort of engaging with people about what are the things that we are doing to look into the future, especially as it relates to the member experience. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk about the network effect and really how powerful that is at Tiger 21. Frankly, it is around the world and oftentimes not fully appreciated or taken advantage of. But really highlighting the things that we can do to figure out how do we bring members together in a more convenient and effective manner for, when it's important for them on a topic that's important to them. Ultimately, that's where kind of the value in Metcalfe's law comes from. And so that's a fair bit of what we end up talking about. Again, any given day, it's sort of not the time I'm spending looking into the future or, sort of thinking about what strategically should we be thinking about from a Tiger 21 perspective, not 6 months from now, but 6 years from now, or, the 50% of any day that's just sort of running the business. Right. But, it is, it's a day where I end up, engaging with people most of the day. And given that I'm an introvert, that can be a bit challenging, but, I do enjoy it. So, that's probably it.
Well, give me a sense for the network effect and how you think about it and the power you've seen and kind of the difference that you've seen that make.
So this was one of the things that most attracted me to the opportunity at Tiger 21. There were a few things, but this is right up there on the list. Tiger 21 had done an exceptional job of building out sort of sub-communities, if you will, these groups, which, are 12 to 15 members that meet on a monthly basis with a chair. Sort of think of board of directors. Your chair is the person who sort of puts the board together, makes sure the board is as effective as possible. That's the role of the chair at Tiger 21. And, we had done a great job in the 19 years before I got here, 20 years before I got here, sort of really perfecting that. But one of the things I saw, Clint, was this great untapped potential to be able to sort of extend beyond the group and create that network effect beyond the group. Now, to do that, you have to eliminate the barriers of time and place, and which means presumably you're going to have to leverage enabling technology. But if you can do it, the power is enormous. And again, I never presume that people understand Metcalfe's or know Metcalfe's law, but it really is sort of the way that the more nodes you have in a network and have the ability to connect them, the value of that network goes up exponentially. And so think about it this way. If you put together 15 people in a group, and just do the math on this, there are 105 potential connections that exist in that group. If you put 1,700 people together, there are 1.5 million possible connections. The power of that is just extraordinary. And we are scratching the surface on how we do this. And so, figuring out how do we connect? So, a member in Los Angeles is looking at an opportunity in Singapore and is trying to get a connection with Temasek. Well, our Singapore members may have connections with Temasek and can make that connection on behalf of the Los Angeles member. A member in Switzerland is traveling to London and wants to take their spouse out for a special evening and doesn't want to go to the place that's, in the top 5 on TripAdvisor. They want to know the place that isn't on TripAdvisor. Well, contact a Tiger member in London, or your son is going to be doing an internship in Denver. Connect up with the members that are in Denver to make sure that if there's any issue, your son has a number to call for immediate support. Those opportunities, and again, you can imagine they extend out in so many different directions, but there's so much power in that. Not just at Tiger 21, by the way, but that was one of the items that I really saw as a very compelling way to increase, to leverage untapped value or potential at Tiger 21. And I think we've really started to make some good inroads in that regard.
Yeah, that's incredible. I 100% agree with you on network effects and how important communities are. How are you thinking, like in the age of AI, about the importance of these human connections? More important, less important? I mean, I think we probably both think it's more important, but how are you thinking about it? Is AI affecting Tiger at all?
It affects everybody. It affects every person. It affects every business. And, I think you mentioned something, and I hope you don't mind me quoting you back to you, but that I really agree with, especially as it relates to today, is, AI is going to create more opportunity for us to focus on the creative aspects because it'll remove some of the capacity that we've had to dedicate to more mundane tasks. And, I think especially as it relates to the near and perhaps midterm, that's spot on. Longer term, who knows? But what that says, I think, Clint, is that the opportunities for connection and, engagement, has even greater potential in the world of AI. And so the opportunity to sit around the table with people and sort of focus not on those mundane tasks, but focus on the areas that are really highlighting the human potential for creativity, I think is really powerful. And so, we are looking at ways as to how, one of the ways we're looking at AI in particular is how do we create more automatic opportunities for members that are going to be relevant to them. And so if we happen to know that a member is very interested in multifamily real estate, well, we happen to know that there is a multifamily real estate network event that's taking place in Denver. Let's make sure that member is aware of that. Let's talk about an opportunity where we happen to know that somebody is an adventure travel person, and we've got an adventure trip to Costa Rica that we're putting on. Well, let's make sure that member is aware of it. And there are, again, many of the other opportunities, but if we understand kind of what is important to our members, the opportunity to deliver that in a much more effective manner is going to be, that much more powerful to really create a bespoke experience, while maintaining all of the sort of quality and excellence elements that are critical at Tiger 21, essential.
Yeah. Finally, I want to be respectful of your time. We end every interview with the same question, and that is at CEO.com. We believe the chances one gives is just as important as the chances one takes. When you hear that, who gave you a chance to get you to where you are today?
Well, I'm going to go back to the item that I mentioned with Norm Blake. But given that I've already spoken to that one, Clint, and I'll highlight another instance, perhaps earlier in my career that really solidified my relationship with Norm. He actually had, I had moved to Europe. I was in my mid-20s. I moved to Europe to set up a private equity arm for Heller Financial was the firm at the time. And I was coming back because I had left my MBA half done. And so they only gave me so long in terms of the sabbatical. And I was coming back, and Norm asked me to take on a role of secretary of the executive credit committee. What's that? Who knows? But we had 4 major parts of our business, all very different ways we were making investments into different sectors: real estate, leasing, again, leverage buyouts, et cetera. And this role had to meet with the heads of each of the business and evaluate every investment opportunity that came before our credit committee and offer an opinion. And I think never once in my tenure or in the tenure of the person who was before me had the committee ever voted in a different way than the recommendation of the secretary of the executive credit committee. And so here I am, a 26-year-old person, hopefully reasonably capable, but I didn't know about these other lines of business. I had to be a very quick study. It takes a level of self-confidence, but also humility to be able to meet with the heads of these businesses who are oftentimes 30 years older than I am and far more experienced, and then be able to substantiate positions on investments that they're recommending. And so, I think Norm saw that I was able to perform reasonably effectively in this role. And it allowed me perhaps then to position for the next one that I highlighted a few years down the road that really positioned me for my role as a CEO. And so it's one that I have greatly appreciated. Certainly it was a critical point in my career, and I was, given an amazing opportunity. I don't know that you asked, Clint, but I'll share, constantly throughout my career, I try to find the people who are who would benefit from a similar kind of opportunity, and to be the giver and not the recipient. I've had a few of those. Thankfully, most of them have worked out. I don't know that any of them has been quite as impactful as Norm's with me, but I think I commend CEO.com for asking that question and always closing, because it is critically important. These are the things that allow us to continue to grow both individually in our businesses and as a society.
Tim, what an honor to have you on the show. My word, I'm so impressed with you, who you are as a person, the leader you are, and Tiger 21. Thank you so much. Really, it's been an honor.
It's been my pleasure and honor as well, Clint. And I hope we get to meet in person before too long. I'd love to sort of have that chat with you.
Let's do it. Okay. Thanks, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.